Whether it's because you want to watch your jellyfin movies when you're traveling, need to access some backed up family photos at a family reunion, or you just still stop seeing ads even when you're not at your home network, the time comes in basically every Homelab journey in which you want to expose your services, or at least be able to remotely access them from networks that aren't yours. There are many ways to expose your services to the internet, or at the very least, give yourself remote access to them. This video is the first video in a series about exposing your Homelab and your Homelab services to the greater internet. Each method of exposing your services obviously comes with its own set of pros and cons, but in today's video, we're going to be focusing exclusively on Tailscale. Now, you've likely seen mention of Tailscale at some point in your Homelab journey, but what exactly is it? Well, with a lot of different softwares, Tailscale is a lot of different things for a lot of different people. But I think the easiest way to look at it is through the lens of a VPN, or virtual private network. A VPN is a tool that lets you securely connect to a network that isn't the network that you're physically on. A lot of VPN services like NordVPN advertise themselves as increasing your online internet browsing security. And another very common use of VPNs is to get around region-blocked content so that you can connect to the internet and make it seem as though you're in a region that you aren't physically in to gain access to different content. Most importantly for our use case today though, VPNs can be used to essentially remote into your home network even when you're not there. Specifically, the way that Tailscale does this is through something called a Tailnet. It's basically a virtual network where all of the devices that you have connected to your Tailscale account will be able to act as if they were on the same network. They all get unique IP addresses on your Tailnet and even get magic DNS, or more human readable versions of an IP address for remote access. Using this Tailnet IP address or magic DNS, you can connect to any other device on your Tailnet from any other device on your Tailnet. It's pretty nifty. So you can do this with any set of devices under the sun basically, but for this example, we'll use a laptop and an Unraid server. If I add both of these devices to the Tailnet, I can access either of them from the other. So I can access my Unraid server from my laptop. It works essentially the same way as if you were to connect to this server on your home network, just instead of typing in the server's local IP address, you type in the Tailnet IP address or the magic DNS and connect to it that way. With the basic idea of how Tailscale works out of the way, let's talk about some of the significant pros that Tailscale has. First off, it doesn't require any sort of port forwarding. Other VPN options for remote connection require you to port forward or expose a window into your network to the internet as a whole so that you can remotely connect to it. Unfortunately, this also opens that port for other actors as well, and these tend to be high-value targets for bad actors. Secondly, Tailscale can work on basically any device under the sun. You can install it on just about any recently modern operating system, from Linux, Windows, and Mac to even mobile operating systems like iOS and Android. Thirdly, it is very easy to set up. With a little bit of luck on your side, you can get it completely set up within about 20 minutes. With those pros out of the way, let's talk about maybe some of the cons. The first con might not be a first con for everyone, but it definitely is for some people. Tailscale is a bit of a black box. The exact specifics of the technologies at play are proprietary, as Tailscale has not open sourced any of the software. So they do have intellectual property to protect, meaning that it's all a little bit magical. And secondly, it isn't the most user-friendly option under the sun. If you're self-hosting, you're already likely used to typing in IP addresses and ports to access your services. Tailscale doesn't significantly change this process, and as such, isn't the best option for letting your technically inexperienced uncle access the family cookbook or whatever. So now that we have the general idea of how Tailscale works out of the way and some of the pros and cons, let's get into actually setting this up. I'll be going through the process of setting up Tailscale for remote access on an Unraid server. Essentially the diagram that I had a little bit earlier in the video. Obviously, you can use Tailscale with a bunch of other combinations, and the general idea of what I'm gonna go through holds true regardless of what kinds of devices you're connecting to your Tailnet. Here's the basic flow of how to get things set up regardless of what set of devices you have. First, you're gonna create a Tailscale account, then download Tailscale on your target devices. Once that's downloaded, you're going to add those devices to your Tailnet, and then you can use the information in the Tailnet, like the IP address and the magic DNS, to access those devices remotely. So first things first, go ahead and head over to tailscale.com and create an account. You do have to use an identity provider like Google, Microsoft, or Apple for this. Okay, sorry, I had to make some script changes, so that's why there's kind of a little bit of a cut and my background is different. I'm in the middle of a move right now. But once you set up your Tailscale account, it's gonna automatically prompt you to install Tailscale on the device that you use to do that. Go ahead and do this, whether it's Windows, Linux, Mac OS, whatever it is, go ahead and install Tailscale. And when you install and launch Tailscale, it's gonna ask you to sign in. Sign into the account that you're using, and then this should kick you back to the create account page and recognize that you've added that device to your Tailnet. When you continue through the setup, it is going to ask you to connect a second device, and this is where we're gonna pop over to Unraid to add that second device to our Tailnet. So let's get into that. For this, go to your Unraid web UI and then head over to the App Store tab. Once there, simply search Tailscale. You'll want the Tailscale plugin version with the monthly spotlight banner. Click on it and then hit install and wait for that to finish. Once the plugin is installed, go back over to the plugins tab and click into Tailscale. Once you're in here, go ahead and click re-authenticate and then sign into your Tailscale account and connect your server to your Tailnet just like you did with the client device a few minutes ago. Now, in both Unraid and Tailscale, you should see the Tailnet IP address and domain name. On the console page, you'll see a list of machines on your Tailnet. The addresses column shows this Tailscale IP address of that machine. And if you click on the name of the machine, you'll get into an additional page with all sorts of additional information about that device, including the magic DNS name. To test if it works, go back to the client device that you set up and try typing in the Tailnet IP address of your Unraid server into a browser. If you get to the web UI, then congrats, you've got it set up correctly. Now you can use the Tailscale IP address or magic DNS to connect to your Unraid server just the exact same way as you would use its local IP address. This also includes accessing Docker containers, where previously you might have typed in 192.168.0.246 : the port of your Docker container. Now you can use whatever your Tailnet IP address is for your server and then use the same port and you'll be able to connect to it that way. If you don't want to use IP addresses, you can also use this magic DNS domain name in place of an IP address. That's a little bit easier to remember. Just remember that whatever device you're trying to remotely connect to, both the client and the server side need to both be on your Tailnet. If you're trying to connect to a device that isn't on your Tailnet or from a device that isn't on your Tailnet, you will be unsuccessful. So you've got Tailscale set up on both the client and server machine, but before we wrap up our setup here, there's one last important thing you need to do. You want to disable key expiry for your server. Periodically, Tailscale requires devices to log back into the Tailscale account to verify that they're still current. This behavior isn't always desirable though. For instance, if you're traveling and want to connect to one of your services through Tailscale, but your Unraid server is pending a key renewal, then you will not be able to access that server. To disable this expiry, simply click into the target machine in Tailscale, then click Machine Settings and click Disable Key Expiry. Now, you don't have to worry about losing access in an inopportune moment. This all is a pretty basic setup of Tailscale, but if you ask me, that's part of the beauty of what Tailscale offers. There are a bunch of other things that I haven't tinkered much with, like exit nodes, user management, and routing traffic between devices in certain ways. But like I said, the beauty of Tailscale is that you can just throw a couple of devices up on there and get remote access working very, very fast. And if your needs change in the future, there are plenty of features here for you to be able to grow into. That's a wrap for this video though. I hope you found it helpful and enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving it a like and subscribing for more content like this in the future. For example, here in the near future, I'll be running through Cloudflare tunnels for exposing your services, which is a little bit easier for end users to wrap their heads around. In the meantime though, you should go watch my recent video about using an Intel Optane drive and an M.2 adapter as your boot device for Unraid. That way you get the advantages of both internal boot and flash boot with none of the downsides. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.